Hi. In this video, we want to show how to send emails with attachments using Microsoft 365 Outlook from Flow. We'll fetch actuals from a SQL Server database, create an Excel file, and send the file as an attachment in the email. I'll start by quickly adding all the actions we will use, and then go back and fill in the details. I'll first add an HTTP trigger, so the flow can be run from an HTTP request. It's not really necessary for this demo, but it will make it easier to test the flow with some demo data. Next, I'll add the getDataReader action for SQL Server to read our actuals dataset, and then I'll add the create Excel file as byte array action to create the Excel file from the data we get from SQL Server. I'll also add a SQL Server action to fetch the recipient email addresses from the database. Finally, I'll add the send email action to send the Excel file as an attachment in an email. Imagine we want to export and email actuals per department. I'll therefore create a custom data type that defines a data contract, letting us specify which department ID to use. We'll use the department ID as parameter to our SQL queries and email message. I then need to specify that the output of the HTTP trigger should be our email request data type. This makes it easy to get the value of the project ID property in our other actions. So that we can test the flow by running it from the designer, I'll define a JSON object with the project ID to use in the default data property of the trigger. Next, I'll quickly configure the action to read the actuals from the database by selecting a SQL Server connection and defining the query using the department ID parameter. To create the Excel file, I first need to select the output from our getActuals action as the data source. I then need to specify how the columns from the database should be mapped to the columns in the Excel file. I'll add some quick formatting by making the header column bold. The last step before configuring the send email action is to fetch the recipient's email addresses. To configure the send email action, the first thing we need to do is set up a connection to grant Flow permissions to send email on your behalf or on behalf of the account of your choosing. Simply create a new connection and log on using the account you want to use to send emails. When you have completed the authorization flow, the connection is set up and you can now send emails using this connection. I'm going to pick the recipients from the Get Mail Recipients action, add a subject, and write a simple message. Finally, I'll define the attachment to include by using the output from the Excel action. Now let's quickly save and run the flow, and wait for an email to inspect the result. This looks like what we expect. Let's open the Excel file and compare it to what we have in the database just to make sure. As you can see, the Excel file contains the expected data. And with that, we conclude this demo. Thanks for watching.